Softness is often misunderstood, and as a woman who is a leader, you feel that if you are feminine as a leader, then it means that you are weak. Okay? Now, I know a lot of females already are saying, do I show softness? Do I show softness at work? No, I'm not that kind of person. But I'm going to give you a few points to know if you're one of them, okay? I like giving points and examples, okay? So the first example is you lead with kindness. You're a kind person, but you feel the pressure to act tough in order to be respected. Now, this particular point I totally understand because I have been in those shoes. Okay, how do you balance it, being kind and also getting things done? And I feel like a lot of people also have been in those situations where, okay, you're a kind person or you're leading with kindness, but you feel the pressure to act tough and be, all that in order to be respected. Now, another point is that you stay quiet in conflict. And the reason for this is so that you're not seen as too sensitive. Because, I'll give you a typical example. There was this time I had two people in church, when I was a choir leader, I had two people in church who had issues. And because of the temperaments of both of them, you will be forced to think that the guy was actually right. When they ask, okay, what really happened? The guy will be like, okay, thank you very much for your question. This is what happened. This is what happened. This is what happened. But if you ask the female what happened, she'll be like, hey, the person did this, and then he said this, and then looking at it at face value, you will think that, okay, maybe this guy is actually the one in the right. And I'm not saying that as a woman you should be ranting, okay? That's not feminine, okay? I'm not saying that as a woman you should rant or you should scream or yell. I'm just saying that you shouldn't stay quiet in a conflict and not express yourself, okay? I'm not saying you should express yourself in an arrogant or a brash way. What I'm saying is, do not stay quiet in a conflict, okay? If you need to actually express yourself and say the things that you're not pleased with, please do that, okay? So this is one of the points that make you feel like, or make you look like being soft means being weak. Because you think that being soft is being weak, you keep quiet because you don't want to show your softness. You don't want to show the things that you don't like, because people will be like, this woman is too sensitive. So I'm here to tell you, no, you shouldn't stay quiet in conflict. Yes, know how to express yourself, but don't stay quiet in conflict. Another point is you are nurturing. Of course, as women, well, I wouldn't say most, because all the females I know have that nurturing nature, okay? Even the toughest of the toughest ones, my friends that are very, very tough, that are fighters in their companies. I have this friend who owns a spa, and she's quite tough. But beneath that toughness, she's very nurturing. Now, for a lot of us females, you are nurturing, but you are afraid of being called too soft for leadership. Okay, that's why you see situations where because you're trying to hold back yourself and everything, a couple of people in the management setting, okay, in management of companies will be like, does this lady have the energy to handle these people? Does she have the energy to handle leadership? Does she have the energy? Remember, in my very first MLZ video, I talked about how as humans, everyone has the masculine and the feminine energy, but women lean in more to their feminine and men lean in more to their masculine. That is the normal order of things. So I'm not going to talk about alphabetical whatever. But what I'm trying to say is, because you have that feminine and masculine energy, you don't know when to be more masculine or more feminine when it comes to leading, as a woman. And I just want to share some few points with you, what I think concerning this topic. I know that we could go on and on giving examples about how a lot of women are scared of being soft as leaders, and so because they are being, they're scared of being seen as soft as leaders, they get it all wrong by being too arrogant, by being too brash, and they eventually make enemies of people they are supposed to lead. They eventually don't get the 100%. They eventually don't get the best out of their staff. And I'm not saying that you should be crying to your staff or be so, soft and everything, and so weak in that sense, but there is a way to balance it. And I have a few points, that I have put together by reason of what I've learned over the years from my businesses, from my work, from the things that I've been doing, and I just thought, let me share them with you because it might help somebody who is going through the same thing. And the very first point I will tell you is being soft doesn't mean being fragile. You can be soft and you can be grounded. You can be calm and you can still command respect. One thing I normally tell my friends, especially some of my male friends who are under female leaders, I will tell them, respect the position more than the person. Right? Respect the position more than the person. And what do I mean by that? A lot of times our leaders, in workplaces and all, would probably do one or two things that we don't like. They will do one or two things that are disrespectful to us. They will do one or two things that will make you feel like, what's wrong with this leader of mine? Do you understand? And so if you help yourself by respecting the person's position more than the individual, it will help you a lot. It will go a very long way in helping you to cope with that person, that leader that you have. And so as a woman who is a leader, I just want to let you know that you can be calm and still command respect. And what are the ways that you can command respect? The first one is by respecting yourself. I know that this goes without saying, right? But then I just thought to say it again, put it out there. And how do you respect yourself? When you say A, mean A. When you say B, mean B. And by being a leader does not mean that you should never take suggestions from people. You should never listen to people. There was a time a colleague of mine told me, because I was giving ideas in this particular organization that I worked with, and she was talking about another organization that she worked with, and she was like, that other organization doesn't care about your ideas. When they hire you, they just tell you what to do and that's it. And I said it in my heart. I didn't say it to her because that was not the major point of the meeting. But I said it in my heart. I said, I will never be found in such an organization, whether as a worker or even as a boss, because I believe that if you hire somebody, that person has a brain, and you should at least take out time to listen to what is in that person's brain, because that person is coming from the outside world, probably has some experience that would be useful for you, and so you should try to listen to what that person has in mind. Do you understand? But then I understood that, okay, fine, for some organizations, they have their culture already, they have their goals already, and they don't want to hear what amazing idea you have. That's fine. But I wouldn't be found in such a place. Now, if you're that kind of boss that does not like to listen to people, learn to listen to people, but it is up to you to decide if you're taking their advice or not. And that's why I say that you can be calm and still command respect. The second point I would give you, for those who are worried about whether my softness is weakness and all that, as a female leader, is my softness weakness, the second point I'm going to give you is emotional intelligence. It's a very important term, but emotional intelligence is a superpower. Somebody said that when we were talking about the power of the tongue some time ago during Bible study, we were discussing, not really Bible study, but friends were just speaking about the power of the tongue. And somebody said that a lot of wars have been started by the tongue. A lot of wars have been started, and a lot of wars and conflicts have been ended or prevented with this tongue, with the same tongue. There are a lot of things that can be prevented with how you speak, not just what you say, but how you say it. And when it comes to emotional intelligence, this is a training that I feel like everybody needs to get. Okay, at least read the book, get a training or something, because a lot of us need to know, especially as female leaders, there's a thin line between you trying to push across your points and also getting upset or getting impatient and getting, being eager to push across that point with so much zeal that you now become quite brash, or you become totally unaware of the feelings of the person you're speaking to. Now, emotional intelligence is a superpower. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, people follow those who see them, not just who control them. I will say it again. People follow those who actually see them, and not just people who control them. Okay, so as a leader, it is not your job to control people. As a female, okay, as a female leader, don't think that, on a normal day, I would love to allow them do what they want to do, but also I have to, push them to do what I need them to do and all that. So let me just tell them what to do and turn my back and move. No, people follow those who see them. In other words, rather than say, hey, you, do this, do that, call them by their name. Hi, Eva. Hello, Brian. How are you? I need this, I need this, I need this. Do you understand? First of all, you've said their name, and of course people love their names. People love to hear their name. And then secondly, you have actually asked, how are you doing? Now, this is a culture I learned from an organization that I worked with, how whenever somebody calls me to even talk about work, the first thing that they do is, oh, hi Zuri, how are you doing? I hope you had a restful night. Okay, I need this. And initially when I joined that organization, I liked things like that, but I wasn't really, how do I put it now? I wasn't really particular about things like that. But I noticed that in this organization, it was actually a culture. No matter the emergency, it was the same. The culture was the same. You would say hello, you call the person's name, and you ask, how are you doing? You ask about the well-being of the person before you even say what you want. So I'm not saying that you should do that and you'll be fine. But what I'm saying is people follow those who see them. So whatever it is that you need to do to allow your colleagues or your employees to make, to feel seen, whatever it is you need to do to make them feel seen, do it, as long as it's something that's coming from the inside of you, And I know that a lot of women actually are like that. A lot of women are naturally like that, but we try to kill it because we're trying to be masculine, because we're trying to be logical, because we're trying as much as possible not to feel or seem weak or not to be taken for granted, But I'm going to tell you that emotional intelligence is a superpower. And that brings me to my next point. Okay, my next point is you need to redefine what power means. You need to redefine power. Now, power isn't noise. Power isn't force. Power isn't domination. I know that in this world, especially this world that is male dominated, for women it's so tough to actually prove yourself, especially if you're now pretty or beautiful. Oh my goodness, I remember what they said about is it Access Bank or Zenith Bank CEO, that somebody was talking about how, oh, this woman, she's too fine to be a CEO, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, what is wrong with this person? Like, what does physical appearance have to do with being able to deserve some sort of power? Do you understand? Like, it was just off points, right? The fact that you're beautiful means that you're not capable of power or something. I don't know. But anyway, what I'm saying is, as a female leader, you need to redefine what power means for you. Okay, you need to redefine power. Real power is not noise. Real power is not domination. Real power is not force or arrogance or brashness. Okay? Real power is influence. Real power is presence. Real power is wisdom. Leading with wisdom. Okay? Leading with wisdom. And that is why when Solomon ascended the throne, he knew that, look, my father's shoes are too big to fill. This kingdom is so large that I need the wisdom of God to rule this kingdom. He did not ask for, oh God, bless me with riches, bless me with wives, bless me. No. He asked for wisdom, because I feel like that's one of the most important things you need to get as a leader. And that's why the Bible talks about, in all you're getting, get wisdom, because when you have wisdom, all these other things can come to you. When you ask God for wisdom as a leader and you lead with wisdom, trust me, you will be highly respected. Trust me, you don't have to scream, you don't have to yell in order for your presence to be felt. You don't have to scream or yell in order for people to realize that you exist. Okay, as a leader, you don't have to yell for people to realize that you're there. Okay, once you lead with influence, with presence, with wisdom. See, once you have wisdom, there's this perfume there's this aura that is around you, that when people are in your presence, they feel that they have that respect for you without you screaming the roof off, right? So please redefine what power means. Okay, and it brings me to my next point. When you are nurturing, that is also leadership, and that is why the mother of a home is extremely important in that home. Okay, because women are biologically wired to be nurturers. Okay, and so when you are nurturing, it's also leadership. I don't want you to think that you're just as a leader, you're just managing tasks and everything. When you're building people, okay, as a leader, you're building people. You're not just managing tasks, you are building people. Now, women who care deeply, they build cultures that thrive. And that's one of the reasons why our society still stands, because we have nurturing women who build cultures where people thrive. Okay, and so when you are nurturing, don't think that you are not contributing anything, or what you're doing is not having any effect. I'm not saying you should be so nurturing and so understanding that people take you for granted, right? What I'm saying is, being nurturing is leadership. You are building people, and more importantly, you're building a culture where people thrive. I just gave you an example of an organization I worked with that had this amazing culture of people checking on each other. I can bet you that it was inspired by a woman. Even if it was a man that introduced it in that organization, I have the feeling that it was a woman that even inspired it, So please have it at the back of your mind that, look, if you are a nurturer, I need you to understand that you are a leader. Okay, it is leadership. It's also another form of leadership, and it is the best form of leadership because you're building people, you're building cultures that thrive. I'm almost done. The next point I'll give you is feminine leadership is the future. Okay, gone are the days where the world was, into hustle, grind. And no offense to the men, okay? No offense to the men, okay? But the world is shifting. The world is shifting from grind to grace. Okay, the world is shifting. We need more women who lead with both heart and head. Okay, we don't want leaders anymore who lead with just their head. We need more women to lead with their heart and their head. Okay, and that's where I'm gonna stop. But I want you to repeat something to yourself. Okay, I want you to put your hand on your chest and repeat something to yourself. Say that my softness is not a flaw. My softness is not a flaw. My softness is my edge. Okay, my softness is not a flaw. My softness is my edge. I lead with grace and not fear. I lead with grace and not fear. I lead with grace and not confusion. I lead with grace and not uncertainty. I lead with grace and not fear. My softness is not a flaw. It is my edge. I live with grace and not fear. If you like this topic, please hit the like button. Like I always say, subscribe to my channel, share this topic with somebody that you feel needs to hear it, that woman that you feel needs to hear this. Share this channel with her, share this particular video with her. See you in the next video.